It's funny. It's funny how now when I goes, oh, chimdara, chimdara. I'm like, didn't damn dada. When did that transition ever go to damn dada? You know what I mean? But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you, man.
Chimdara simply means
Yeah, it's funny. My cousin, was it? I think it's about a month ago. We were going on a flight to Zimbabwe, and she said to me, "Oh, your aura has changed." I'm like, "What is an aura? I don't even know what an aura is." But yeah, there's a statement that I've been saying a lot to my friends and family. You change a man from the inside, everything changes. Obviously, everyone knows Abra Simzz. They've heard the names, they've heard Winky D, they've heard the Red Rats, the Beanie Mans, even the Vibes Cartel mention my name. And a lot of people didn't know who Simukai was, who I really am. My real name is Simukai Mandridza. I think my family left in Zimbabwe in 1999. And we always grew up in the church. We always grew up around the Lord, alongside Jusa Dementa as well, who's actually my elder brother. Yeah, he's my cousin, but he's literally my brother here. My brother, yeah. He's the man that probably made Abra Simzz. I was not very talented in many things, but I learned like him to be a DJ, to be an MC. Everything was self-taught and learning as well from others. And I all did it for the love of my brother to push his career as a producer and as an artist. And then obviously from there, you take it to next levels, you know. I remember he would always be shocked. You're talking to Hawkeye. You're talking to General Degree. You're talking, and to me, I was just doing my thing. But to be honest with you, like you're talking about the change, the last year has been a different, something's changed. And I would like to say God called me. I just felt my spirit, something has to change. I even kept saying to my wife, my birthday won't come around. I won't turn 40 and things are going to be the same. Not knowing it was going to be a lot more than that. From my physical side of my body, I think a lot of people see me as the big guy, the big teddy bear. Ironically, that was my nickname growing up, the bear. So, ironically, yeah, a lot has changed. And as I said, if you change a man from the inside, everything changes. And it's really more of a spiritual walk. It's Christ called me, and I feel like I have such a platform to change young people's lives. I influence them a lot, obviously the Zimdancehall genre, but I think I can do a lot more than that and actually uplift people, and not just young people, but anybody really. So I know obviously we'll get more into that as we go along, but yeah, I think that's my statement. Change a man from the inside and everything will change.
So
I think when it comes to God, in this world that we live in, you've got many religions, you've got many situations, but I guess most of my life, as I said, I grew up in the church, but in the last year, I've had a relationship with God. And that relationship, when you are obedient, everything literally changes, bro. If I tell you, I think a year ago, April, I was 137 kgs, and I think I'm down to like 113 now. And there's not a single gym that I've entered. If I'm being honest with you, my encounter with God every January with my wife, I've been married for a couple of years now. My wife, we used to always fast, but me being in the industry, I really wouldn't. You would have a situation where, like, when I'm not around the wife, you cheat, you eat, you do what you do, you drink alcohol. But 2026 was the first time I actually, yes, I guess you could say I had an encounter with God, where you completely give up yourself, and from there, God just starts speaking to you. And it's not like a loud, crazy voice or anything. It's just a soft voice that kind of guides you. And we had a little 21-day fast, and actually the last 3 days we even did a dry fast. We broke it with communion. And the crazy part after that, I felt a little depressed because you have such an encounter of 21 days with God, where for me, no social media. I wasn't even watching movies or series. All I was just doing was trying to find out, okay, in as much as I grew up in the church, You can like Jesus, but you're not like Jesus. And that's what many Christians or people around the world seem not to get. Like, you can't live your life the 6 days, Saturday to, Saturday to what? Before Sunday, do what you want, and then say you go to church and you think that's a relationship. Think about a marriage. It's like someone who goes and cheats on their wife every single day, comes home and says, no, I'm the perfect husband because I provide everything. That's not a relationship. So that's what I mean. Like, my relationship with God just got stronger. And then from there, after the fast, I remember telling my wife, I feel a little depressed. And she's like, why? She's like, I feel like we're just going to go back to our normal routine. And then from there, we decided as a family that we fast on Wednesday. So every Wednesday since January, we fast. Yeah. Then from there, ironically linked up with a couple of my brothers who were in the industry. I won't say their names, but there's actually a few brothers who were in the industry. One is a comedian, one was a writer, and we fast every Friday as brothers. You know, and we always laugh kuti taibatana kuti tichenda bar Friday, but now Friday takumirira for the Lord. You know what I mean? And I think that's actually, even from the physical standpoint, that's where you see the physical change. So yeah, that's been basically my walk in the last year, and God just continues to just show me wonders. To be honest with you, the one thing I will, I guess you could say, take credit for is I've just been obedient. So whether it's even coming on this podcast, like the Lord was like, yeah, go for it, you know, and that's all I can take credit for, is just being obedient, really. Obviously, it's something that I believe that affected me positively. My relationship with other artists or people within the industry, I think they could see the change by themselves. Obviously, I feel like I went into a mini boot camp for a while, for a few months there, and people just were like, I remember, you know, the statement, Takusua, what's going on? Are you okay? You know, people randomly hit me up. I regret my DJ. Obviously, I actually hadn't done a show with him because we met at the Zimbabwe independence celebration with you guys, but that was my first time linking with Irie Dread in almost 4, 5, 6 months. I actually hadn't even seen him. Yeah, for a person that I literally saw 4 or 5 times a week when I was in the club scene. Because basically, before I get to my relationship with other individuals in the industry, when I was in that industry, I found myself drowning. Whether it's the alcohol, whether it's, finding people who see you take a picture with big celebrities within the South African industry or whatever. But, when you're in that lifestyle, it's almost like you're trying to portray another image, where I found Abra Simzz to be a problem. There's a statement that I've always said, I think even when I walked in this room, everyone knows Abra Simzz, but no one knows Simukai. And it's almost like, there's a guy called C.S. Lewis, I think the guys who did Narnia, the movies, whatever. He said, what Satan put in the head of our remote ancestors is that we could be like gods, that we act like we've created ourselves. And then in all that is a result of everything that humans have created. In our world, social media. In our world, drinking, prostitution, everything that we've created to try and replace God. I used to have this void in my heart, and I used to feel empty. Like literally, you'd probably see me on stage jumping, doing my thing as an MC, and you'd be like, yo, and everyone would be, makaipa. Yeah, and I would take that, and I'd be like, yeah, ndakaipa. And then I would think I'm the guy. And I feel like most celebrities or people in the public scene fall to that issue. How many celebrities, not even just in Zimbabwe, outside of Zimbabwe, fall or die unhappy? And they have the money, they have the fame, but there's something empty inside. So when I realize, like, Dara or Simkai, like, you're dying, you're slowly drowning. You look at your relationship with your wife, you're like, she has me as a fire because you're not completely there. even with your actual family, yeah, they can see, you know, no such little families. You know, top of the prayer list for my fasting. We are not the same kind. Type vibe. But to get back to your question, when I filled that void with God, who it's almost like saying, "Urimota, what God's manufacture Mercedes Benz." Then I would mvura instead of petrol. Yeah, it will work for a while, but eventually, guess what will happen? You will break down and shut down. And that's what happens to most people in the public image. That's why I disappeared. Because even at the height of my, I guess you could say, popularity before the Mbinga age, I was the guy. I remember every artist would be in my inbox. And I remember at that time, I was just feeding the ego. I remember quite a few years ago, there was an article or whatever happened about a relationship I had. And it really humbled me even at that time. So when that happened, I just chilled. And I was from there, but even though I was still doing my thing privately, you know. So coming back to your original question, the original question, most artists that I do talk to, guys like Natio, guys like Freeman, guys like, I actually talk to a lot of artists who come to my inbox, but most of them come humbly because most of them realize like, this is one of the guys that really changed the generation within the music industry. So especially with Natio, this one guy I talk to a lot. Natio is one humble guy. He's a guy who fears the Lord. Even if you look at the album Mustard Seed, that was actually, I'm not going to call it a Christian album, but he probably put his faith in that music more than people realize. Yeah, the people, even if the first song, I think the first interlude is his mom praying for him. And yeah, people don't go big, but there's a lot more. If music has a meaning, can go further. So basically my relationship with artists, I talk to anybody who wants to talk to me, who still thinks I'm relevant. But for the most part, like I have a good relationship with most artists. I try and humble myself. I don't think of myself as bigger than anyone else. I'm willing to work with anyone. Even if you're an up-and-coming artist, the up-and-coming artists that will come to me and be like, I'm telling you to say, I'll give them my 2 cents. Because I always think from the perspective, I guess the Christian perspective, most Christians, I feel actually quite mean. You get wrapped up in your Bible, and in yourself thinking, yes, I'm holy now. But who's actually acting like Christ? You know what I mean? So I try, exactly. I really try and communicate with everybody who comes to me and humble myself. Like I said, you guys approached me at the event, the Zim Independence. I'm like, cool, let's do it. Why not? Like, why should I feel like I'm above everyone else? And which is a God mindset that I was talking about. Everyone thinks they're a mini God when they're, I guess you could say, a celebrity. You get that credit, you get that praise that's due to God, and then you think you're better than everybody else.
I've got this question.
To be honest with you, just from my walk, everything I take from personal experience. So whether, even in this time period where I've been, seeking the Lord, I realized quickly, like, something spoke to my spirit. I actually want to say maybe about 3.5, 4 months ago. And I used to think like, okay, when I look at Christ was called a drunkard. He was called all these things because he actually hung around, whether it was a prostitute, whether it was a tax collector. Yeah. Why was he called that by the religious people who, quote unquote, knew the scriptures? You know what I mean? And I start to think today, like, most Christians are in their own little bubble. I'm not saying all, but the pastor does their job to preach to the congregation. They're supposed to go into the world and speak, but everyone kind of keeps themselves in a little bubble. And I actually thought about it like a few months ago, where I'm like, okay, be of the world, but be not of the world, And that's the only way people will know the truth. Because if my conviction is so strong, feeling like I've come this far, why would I not want to express it, type thing? It's almost like saying you propose to a girl and she's got a diamond ring in, right? And then she hides it. What does a girl usually do? Once, I've just got engaged, and she's trying to tell everybody and anybody, right? It's the same thing with the gospel. If something has changed in you, you can't help but express it, bro. Yeah, that's all I can do. I find myself talking to so many different people, whether in the business world, whether in the entertainment world, and I come from that perspective. Like, that's my foundation. I have to express the gospel. I have to. And here's the thing about me. I believe, or in the Bible, I think it says mercy. Christ says mercy over sacrifice. If you come to understand this, it's not about you knowing scripture or quoting scripture. It's not. It's like literally, how can I be like Christ? How can I express God's love to other people, whether in the world, whether in the music industry? So when it comes to your question, it's basically, I've got to, you always know the line where to stop. Like, I can't do this. A simple example, I mentioned earlier that every Wednesday I fast with my family. Every Wednesday I play golf. I love my golf. I play golf with different guys, mainly in the business world. And you play golf and halfway they eat. And after the hours they get together, they bring out their bottle, they start drinking. And yeah, I play my golf and I'm like, guys, everyone now knows that, no, Simkai, leave him alone. Abra, leave him alone. He's doing his thing, and they respect that. And after a while, people actually end up respecting you for what you can stand. There's a statement in this year, integrity in deal swag. Do swag yacho. And if you actually stand for something meaningful, people will respect you for it. When it comes to AI, Juicer, my older brother, Juicer Dementa, he's been on the AI tip for a good, you wouldn't believe, like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Juicer is self-taught. Everything he does, from Gugazirama beats to editing pictures to everything is literally self-taught. And I kind of adapted that same kind of mindset where if you want to learn something, teach yourself. So when it comes to AI, and again, I believe his video that he did for Winky D, Fake Love, I think it won an AMA award, which created a lot of controversy within the Zimbabwean circles. AI is a tool. The same way Fruity Loops is a tool, or Cubase is a tool. These are all tools. They're not the same way. It's not the same way people recorded Anna Michael Jackson or the people in the 60s. They use different things to record. They're actually proper instruments to record. So I think we're at a stage where people are not realizing that AI is a tool. What you use that tool for is now on you. If you use it for something positive, you still use it for something negative. Is it building the industry? Yes, I believe so. Even, I'm sorry, but I can't help but talk about it. One thing that I've actually, Juicer taught me about Suno, or showed me Suno. I don't know if you know what Suno, yeah. Yeah, and because in Ndirimunu Wemangoma, with my transition, my journey, my spiritual walk, I couldn't go listen to anything. I couldn't go listen to Cartel. Obviously, there's certain music you can listen to, but it's very limited and very filtered. So I found myself with Suno creating my own dancehall, my own. I don't want to call it gospel dancehall because that term sounds very corny. But there's nothing corny about the gospel at all. But I think I've created over 70 to 80 songs for my own personal use. I remember there's even a song I created talking about me and Juice's, I guess you could say, our journey through music. It's actually quite deep because that's one of the things we actually want to do in the near future. Is we actually do want to do a documentary where it's just me and him. Just talking about the industry, where we've come from. Because we've been in the industry for a very long time. We've influenced so much and worked with so many different artists. I don't think people are aware that we have been behind even Jamaican rhythms out there where we've been bought out. So literally we create the beats and work with the team, but then they buy us out and then, they take ownership of the beat, So when it comes to AI is a tool. I have nothing against AI. For my own personal use, it's been absolutely revolutionary for my life. Because you can go through something. For example, there's a quote my cousin said. He's like, "Do you know you're being like King David?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "David used to write everything and then be inspired." Yeah, I think so. Because when we think about Zimbabwean music in general, comparing it, let's just compare it to other African countries. We've been a step behind, maybe two. Video production is another another topic. Let's say, but music-wise, because we have not reached beyond our own borders. So when it comes to Zimbabwean music, Zimbabwean people in China and Zimbabwean music, Zimbabwean people in the UK and there's, I can't even think, if we were to say, let's name one song that's crossed the Zimbabwean borders to infiltrate other countries, can we name one? Besides maybe back in the day, maybe Tuku, Chioniso, in Mapfumo, currently, can we name it? Just off the top of your head, Takazi, I did say Burua, but I did say Waya. Name in 2 minutes. You know, even no, let's not even limit it to Zimdancehall. Let's not,
Let's not just
let's not stick to Zimdancehall. Any Zimbabwean song that's really cross genres or borders rather. There's not many. Actually, I don't think we can name 5 or even 3. You know, so why is that? Let's go back to that question. Why have we not crossed, those barriers to get into the international market? We can't say it's language, because Amapiano is crossed. I've seen Anna Shaquille O'Neal dance at Amapiano. So, and he has no idea what they're singing. Let's say fine. Toti Chirungu Chedus are not on levels. Afro beats. Pidgin English, yeah. But yet, I think most young people, or even not even just young people, most women or whatever, who are even in Zimbabwe, the newest Afro beats are word for word. So let's go back to that original question. Why are we not crossing those barriers? So your route is, can AI give us a chance? I actually think AI will push artists more to the limit. I'll be very honest. I had a conversation with Takura, I think early in the year. So there's a song that I did with my AI, and then I sent it to him. Because I'm like, this sounds like Takura. And I'm like, Takura, I'm willing to give you the lyrics, whatever. But I could tell, like, if I push him to these levels, what AI is currently doing, it could boost his Ngatichi. He might feel like I can go further. I've got more in me than limiting myself to the Zimbabwean market. You get what I'm saying? Like, because Takura is super talented. I think he's one of the most talented artists that I've ever come across. I don't know. I don't know why I have a feeling it's also got to do maybe with the population. Obviously, Nigeria, they've got a huge population. So wherever they are, whether in America, in the UK, wherever they are, they have a big pool. So when it comes to, I think we're barely scratching the surface when it comes to Zimbabwe. Because again, when artists go to the UK, they're performing in front of Zimbabwe. But when Davido goes to wherever, I think he was just recently in Zambia, those are Zambians listening to him. And my question, I remember actually when I was in the States, the first time P Square came out, I remember I was actually on stage, and I think I knew the promoter or whatever. And I think obviously the majority of people who were in there were Nigerian, but obviously there was a certain percentage, let's just say 20%, were other African countries. So my question is, how do you get to that point? Because that point, when I'm describing this, when P Square came to, it was Washington, D.C., they were still early. We're not even at that stage yet. Yes, we're bringing artists overseas, but there's no percentage of other nationalities within that, I guess, the fan base or the people who have come to the show. How do we, that's my original question, how do we cross that barrier? And I don't know what because we can't say it's collabos, because JP has had a lot of international collabos. to say, okay, I end at JP. But JP is still within our market. Yeah, he's still at the top of the game. But there's this, I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of artists, again, I won't name them, where they feel like Zimbabwe's got a ceiling, and once you get to the ceiling, that's it. Well, go maintain it. And I don't know if that, I don't know if it's a true statement, but I think there's a lot of truth in it. The question is, how do you break that ceiling and go further? You just get to a ceiling, yeah, while maintaining Mariago, and you're just doing your thing. You talk about a new album to get a little bit more hype about you, but you're still, it's almost like, because right now, okay, let's just throw some names up there that have reached that ceiling. Winky D's there. Let's say Ja Praiser's there. I can maybe throw Killer T, maybe Freeman. I don't know who else you want to throw there. I don't know, your suggestions. It's not just my opinion, but you can see artists, you feel like artists are chic. And then the next question is, what's he going to do after that? But definitely Winky D and Ja Praiser are there. You know, who else, you know.
But those, bro,
When I think about it, Juice was the talent. When it comes to Abra Tribe, which was the production team behind all that production you saw over the decades. But with me coming in, I came in as the A&R, the artist relations, the public relations. Even when it wasn't supposed to work that way. And even, do you know the funny thing? I talked to the owner of Afro Nation. And he's very much aware of Zimbabwean artists. But then the question is, okay, why isn't one of those artists featuring my festivals in Europe? Because if we're saying a Zimbabwean act, or a basically a very good Zimbabwean act, goes to foreign, they go to UK or they go to wherever, and they perform for Zimbabwean people of, let's say, 1,000 Zimbabwean peoples. Why can't that same 1,000 people go to a festival, right, and perform? My percentage, 20%. Okay, you've got a festival of, I don't know, let's just say 15,000 people. Out of those 15,000, why can't 2,000 be Zimbabwean? And again, the fact that it's a big show, that would push the artists more Zimbabweans would go and support. So it comes back to Shawataura exactly. Maybe we're missing the factor of Atina that A&R, Atina that beyond the music. Tagazira bitaimba song. Beyond that, the actual music industry, okay, music industry no shanda so. You know, maybe that's where we lack as Zimbabweans in general. And I think about it because one of my people who influenced me was a lady named Tapone, and she stays in the UK. When I mean she handled big accounts type thing, not Zimbabwean artists but international artists. So we need more people like that, people who think beyond the beats and the singing. Because most things, what happens about a glitter song, I'm going kind of a WhatsApp. I think it's a little bit more advanced now where people put it on streaming platforms, etc., etc. But what I mean is, how do you get those madiri? Because the funny thing, that's all it takes. Can you imagine Munuanan gets in the right position and says, okay, let's get Winky D into this festival in Germany. That would be huge. And I can tell you, Winky is definitely thinking. Winky is more interested in getting into European festivals than just local. So yeah, he can get the local shows for the rest of his life. That's the honest truth. There's ceiling here, but the question is, if you break through that ceiling, start getting in international markets little by little. And I think that's what Tuku and Chioniso did very well back in the day. Without us knowing, there was actually somebody who had a job to get into those circles. And when you start getting into those circles, that's when you start getting recognized more, because you get called every year. We have 3,000 Zimbabwean. Bro, now it could make a sense, rather than Zimbabweans going to perform for Zimbabweans internationally. Now you're going to just perform for international people. Being proud of the music and where we come from. I think people are, but to the level now, maybe you are influential individual. Because when I literally think about when I first started music with Juice, I was in the States, he was in the UK. And I remember he sent me an album, obviously sukutera machuni ngathi mfana wangu mkoma wangu, not even mfana wangu, but mkoma wangu would I say. But as I grew more passionate about what he was doing, guys, the rooms and the conversations are, you wouldn't believe, if I was to throw a number, I've probably sent over 2,000 emails, probably inboxed over 1,000 artists, maybe more. When I mean inbox, literally, this is back in the day, obviously. We're talking about Facebook, maybe early on Instagram. I remember I used to even have my paragraph, everything about Juicer. Award-winning producer, nominated for Cora Awards, worked with guys like Winky D, GGG. I have my list of things because I was very proud because this is my blood. This is not just now music, this is my blood. And I pushed, and I remember that many times when we get a response from an artist, and again, the same way, that's how I approach Red Rat. The song that Rise Up Zimbabwe, that's how I approached Red Rat. And I remember Rise Up Zimbabwe was not even our first song. We did a song called, it was around New Year's, called For the New Year. And I didn't juice as my fans, but the first song that Zimbabwe knew of was Rise Up Zimbabwe. And my point being is, I was so passionate about what Juicer was doing. I was proud, like you were saying, and anything that we had to do to beef up his profile, to get him in the conversations and rooms. I don't know how many beat samples I sent. You name it. But it got to the point where you started getting responses. Because remember, the more you get, you work with Red Rat. From there, Red Rat profile. Then you go to the next person. You work with General Degree, profile. We've worked with Vibes Cartel. People may not know that. Like there have been so many rhythms that we've done where Jamaican artists buy us out. Serious music business. Not go to Tango Pinda rhythm. Not everyone's got access to things like this podcast, but education is key, in the sense of kungo zivisana, I've learned something from you, you've learned something from me, vice versa. And the more we allow, or I guess the community, the Zimbabwean community, to learn more about, I guess you could say, music in general. Because music is just beyond kungo yimba or kungo uridza magitara. Kune business in it. You can be I'm an agent. You can, in any Jaganzi, for example, Naitala na Charlie Black. That's general. Okay, that's Charlie Black. I just, okay, Abra. Okay, I'm in Zim right now, but today my tour. Okay, maybe it doesn't include Zimbabwe, but I reach out to people in Gambia, Sierra Leone, South Africa. Maybe I've got 5 countries, right? But full-time graft in America, Jamaica, who are just agents. And all they do is they know all the artists. Website kako, as soon as you walk little by little, people will always go, kuna Pascal, I know they're artists. Because right now, most people will hit me up with, okay, Ludagun's an artist for a show. And it's not always a show. It can be a corporate function. It can be a private function. There's many things. I'm just giving you an example. Maybe even Dochi Bochago I'm artist. Maybe Wango Kuranem artist. And you think in yourself, okay, and beat, and your part, it's usually one of those guys who are in the posse. And I remember by my plus one, they know all that, but they don't realize there's more beyond that. There's a need. So it's a lack of knowledge, I think, Zongwa. And the question is, how do you get, I'm always throwing a question back at, how do you get people to get more knowledgeable about the music industry? How do you get people more knowledgeable about the music business? And Juicer's got this, I hope he doesn't get mad at me for sharing, he's got this vision to open up an Abra school of music in Zimbabwe, where we literally just teach, yes, beyond Kugadzirama beats, yes, Kuimba, but also that part, which is the music business. If you actually, I know I drop name Juicer a lot, but Juicer is the person who taught me a lot. Actually, majority of things I learned about the music I learned from Juicer. If you see his AI company, Gadzirama music video, the Sanyati, right? the word art is in there, but anova kusanyati. You get it? So he's very proud of where he comes from. He's very proud of heritage. Even when he got married, he did the whole thing on things on, I forget what the YouTube channel is, but about the cultural side of how to get married. Again, it's just passing knowledge. So it could be through marriage, it can be through about music, it can be about, but we can go or even as my face. I feel to get past that ceiling, we need a music industry, a music business. And when you're referring to that business, probably are one or two agents that are speaking to Afro Nation, that are speaking to Coachella, that are speaking, good Iowa. We've got a community. You've got, that same passion that I had when I was pushing for Juicer, 2007, 2008, going on to the 2010s. I had that passion for Juicer where to this day, Vibes Cartels knows kuna Juicer Dementa. Morgan Heritage knows kuna Juicer Dementa. All these artists, know that there's a person anonzi JUSA, Juicer Dementa, because I was so hungry for him to succeed. And I actually not only just was hungry, I actually believed he was the best. That pride, nothing could stop me. And I pinned up my inbox, no response, or talk to my manager or whatever. Whatever response I got, I kept pushing. Charlie Black was recently in Zimbabwe. I was one of the, actually, I brought Charlie Black to Zimbabwe first through Digital One Promotions. I brought Red Rat to Africa first as well. I brought a lot of Jamaicans first to Africa in general because I had that hunger, even trying to convince, being that middleman. You want the show to happen. Promoter, you go talk back to you just want it to happen. Whether you whatever you're getting paid, but you just want it to happen. So my point going back to is, we need people who are hungry enough, and I don't know what they are. They're agents, they PR people, or the 10 Abra Simzz. We need those individuals who are that hungry on behalf of a Winky D, on behalf of a job praiser, whether it's coming from an internal standpoint, as in their camp, or people who are just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an agent for Zimbabwean artists to get them into festivals. I can tell you, if we could just get 3 or 4 artists per year in festivals, the industry will start to change just a little bit. Because the ceiling is not just Zimbabwe anymore. There's more you can get to. Then before you know it, you get a little bit bigger. Now, before you know, I don't think Grammys passed a Zimbabwean artist in the next 20, 30 years. I don't think so. Not going to Zimbabwe, America, a pop star, Coco, and then now we're trying to claim that artist. No. I mean a person who is genuinely raised in Zimbabwe, knows the Zimbabwean culture, and is proud to be Zimbabwean. There's so many things to be proud of as a nation, and I think we just need to get to that point. Therefore, when you get to that point, it's easy to be prideful. Amapiano. Look how big Amapiano is. I was not a fan of house music when I first got to South Africa, but now I'm going to groove because it became so huge around the world. And I've always got this image of Shaquille O'Neal. I stumbled one of these Amapiano songs, and it just hit me in that moment. Look how big this thing is, And again, they're not speaking English. Hautara Zulu, Hautara whatever language, but yet it's cross borders. Why? We just need to change our satellite view from pointing downwards to upwards yet. That's the only difference. Who can influence and change the Zimbabwean music culture or the Zimbabwean music genre as a whole. It's just a matter of them acting.
Well, what's the whole...
I remember, when I was in the States, from 2099, hearing Tuku music in a bookstore. I remember rushing home. Mama, I heard Oliver Tuku. It was a hype thing, or hearing anything Zimbabwe outside of the borders in another country. you'd get very excited. Now we've grown kind of numb because we know Zimbabweans are all over the world. It goes back to that hunger nganjitaura, even just as a listener or a supporter. Okay, Winky D is my favorite artist. I'm not saying everybody let's come together and support Winky D. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, well, if you are a person of influence outside of buying the music, outside of actually going to support the artist, what can I do to make a big difference? It's something that's very small. Well, it's just simply liking a video, simply sharing. Oh, Ngiyavuma is a new song, and you're a genuine Winky D fan. Maybe that's the level that you can get to. But like I said, we've grown very numb to Zimbabwean culture. Even Muno, my wife loves those chocolate biscuits. And every time I go to Zim, now my biscuits. But then, at the Zim Independence, they were there. Now it's just like, oh, okay. Now it doesn't feel as special. And that's what happens with the Zimbabwean culture as a whole, or Zimbabwean music. Because now you've got access to it on the internet, you've got access to it everywhere. You just feel like, they're Zhurufai. Let's leave it there, Zhurufai. That you can see Sulumani Chimbedi at that event that we did. Now it's just like, okay, Shapir. But like I said, it goes back to what you're saying, that pride. What else can I do as a listener to support my favorite artist, even if it's just that one artist. Really nani compared to just you leaving it, because we have this mindset in Zimbabwe, which kind of happens like that. It does not happen like that. I'm afraid to say it. Like, we've got this mbinga mentality. Okay, linka nemunhu zvinhu zvangu zvinobva zvaita. And that mindset we need to get away from. Like, I've gotten now in a mindset, and I used to have that mindset even when I was doing all my hustles. But you'd get to that level, but nothing would happen. Then you want to go a little further, nothing would happen again. So it comes back even to that void within. That void can only be filled with what is true to you. And that's what's true to us is our culture as a whole. So it's not Winky D collaborating with Vibes Cartel that's going to make Winky D feel like he's at the top of the world. It's Winky D being truly authentic to what he believes in. So as a culture and as a people of Zimbabwe, if we can get to the point, like I said, South Africans are there. I think Nigerians are there, where they're so proud of their music and culture. They want to share it with everybody. And I don't know if we are quite there yet. Actually, we're not there. That's I don't know how many people are teaching Mavarungu Tasha andipere power. Do you know what that means? What do I explain? Before you know Murunga andipere power, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, we gotta be so proud of our culture. And then that's the average person, not even the artist. I'm talking about the average person. And then as a whole, the culture, Smukira. I think a lot of them do. I think from when we first started, I remember, I'll be very honest, like I was one of the first people to give quite a few artists my contracts. Yeah. Not even Guti, I was actually showing them, can I write a booking? Make sure you get your 50%, make sure, whatever it is, And I think people are much more knowledgeable now, or artist management is better based. They have the basics. But to Angola, you need beyond the managers, Ramambo Tower. Beyond the managers, there's maybe Munanekas. Maybe if you can't hire, even if there's financial constraints to do this, you just say, Shama, however you do it, you know what I mean? But my point is, there's beyond this, that's the artist-manager relationship. Before it was just artist-producer. Mm-hmm. Now there's the artist-manager and producer. But we need to go beyond. We need to, there's A&R, there's artist relations, there's a publicist, there's all these things. And then people think, this is Zimbabwe, we don't need that. But then how does the industry grow if we don't develop professions like that? And that's the only way our industry, and that's the way I can see it growing. Because as I said, I learned, there was from the American culture or the British culture of how things are done. munhu anongouya kuti ndine idea ndo idea. I remember I actually learned this phrase from Tapu, and he said, let me have a think. Manibogaya first. Rather than just say, hey, because I'm at this point and you're here, I should just say yes. You know, that's not, again, it comes back to the being a mentality. But it will never be enough. You will always want more. You always want to get to another position. So, in general, most artists are doing a pretty good job. But as I said, they need more opportunities within the music industry or the music business to allow the music to grow that are there. Whether it could be anything. Let's talk sports, let's talk music, let's talk arts. If any of our children came to us and said, Teddy, the next Ronaldo, or I want to become the next Vibes Cartel. You're not going to go out, okay, right. What they want to do will it feed them? Their passion, will they feed them like financially? Will they be okay? Because when now this is from my experience. When we left Zimbabwe in 1999 as a family, I migrated to States, to California. And I remember playing sports and seeing my parents. This is high school. So whether it be soccer, be track, my parents. If we were to flip that now to Zimbabwe, I think it's a little bit better now than it was when we were growing up. But still, technically, my parents are kubas. Technically, right? So you as a child, whatever your passion is, let's just say you are passionate about soccer or football. If your parent is not there to support you about your passion, you don't think the sky is the limit. So at some point, your vision or your dream will die. For those that surpass that, and again, now we're coming back to music, without that support, they still love what they do, but then they get to a certain point, that ceiling, and that ceiling is not even that Winky D level. Now there's probably many different ceilings. You've done that one hit song, quite popular, and the rest of your life. That mentality, so there's nothing beyond that if you don't have the support. Even when I look, again, and I love to speak from experience, when I look at Juicer, our whole family supports Juicer. Like I said, I think I'm his biggest fan. Well, I take it back. I think his wife is the biggest fan. Yeah. But before his wife, Lorraine, big shout out to Lorraine. Before his wife, I was his biggest supporter. And as a family, as a family, even me, myself, is Abra Simzz, even though I've kind of stepped a little bit away from entertainment. They support anything that we do. Well, obviously, it should not make sense. I can't come out with the nonsense, but anything should not make sense from a spiritual standpoint as well as a cultural standpoint. They will absolutely support it. They very much know about what we do and what we've done. And they're that supportive. And that's why I think Juicer's had the longevity in music, because he has that family. So it's a very good point, Yamataura. And I didn't think of it from that perspective, but it's absolutely right. Even if we, again, look at JP or Winky D, which are probably some of our biggest artists, they probably have that support from a family standpoint as well. Obviously, they had to break barriers at some point where maybe one or two are like, say. But when they saw the success, they support. But how many will get that support before the success? Yeah, I like that. I like how you put that together, boss. That's what I even remember when I was drinking a lot. It's like I was trying to get away from the reality of what life is. I believed as Abra Simzz, right? And then to keep that reality a reality, I had to drink. So henceforth, you'd have the syndrome. My wife calls it a second location syndrome. I was not to party because you want to stay in that reality. And in that reality, you are the man, or you are the mini God, I guess you could call it. You are in control of everything. Mabeba ari kukuda, mafesa aripo, dorobo, everything nice. You're in control. But if you have the stableness of you saying the support, family, it comes across different now. You know, you're like, Dada, yes, is in support of what I'm doing, but did I mention Dakwash? Make a sense. You start to and you become a better individual. So I feel, yeah, as a whole, as an industry, and not just with the music, I think with everything, with even sports. Because even now, like I said, if a kid comes to his dad says, I want to play for Manchester United, we're not big. Like, no one actually believes in that dream. Okay, let me give you a short one, and I hope my brother forgives me, but let me... my brother, I tamba my video game, my youngest brother. I played a lot of video games growing up. And it's even better. Sorry, it's all coming together. See, my parents, obviously, when we were in Zimbabwe, everything boom from the Zimbabwean perspective. Yeah. But when they transitioned to the Zimbabwe, even as parents, the way they parented changed. Sakatiri 4 in general, 2 basic race in America, the other 2 in Zimbabwe. Umkomana loved his video games, right? And then, so the average parent would be like, I'm going out of my video games too much. So he loved his Call of Duty, and then he got into his flight simulator. What I mean, he was into his stuff. What time a video game yake? All the way to midnight. Then also homework. By the time he wakes up, he's tired. You're like, but obviously could not because they supported that kind of thing. But my point is they supported. You could see he had a passion. So even Jogun's birthday, like a video game. To cut a long story short, not going into it too much, Fana Wangu is flying some of the most expensive jets in the world for America.
For real?
Yes. So here's my simple point to that story. The mindset of my parents yaka change from the Zimbabwean way to the American way. Not kuti vaifunga to the American, but you get what I'm saying. Kuti vangu vakavhurika little kuti mwana ane chipo. Mwana is passionate about something. If we took that same kid or my brother, womuisa ku Zimbabwe, would that dream have become a reality? Shaifara.
Yeah, but also
Let's throw another name out there. Lewis Hamilton. I don't know if you guys have heard the story. He Baba wake sold the house to support his career, and again he's become the all-time greatest driver here for Formula One, and especially as a black man, you know, in a white dominant sport. To this day, he's the only black man that's ever raced. I don't know if he's ever raced, but he's the only one who's been successful. Same thing with golf, Tiger Woods, you know, although he's a little bit Asian. But my point is the parents' sacrifice could actually get to a certain level as well. It's like, I don't know. I just, but at the same time, our environment also dictates that. For a parent, for a parent to be like, Mwanangu is going to become a super fighter jet pilot in Zimbabwe is not exactly a real. It's possible, but again, are you feeding the passion or are you killing it? That's a simple question. And as the Zimbabwean culture as a whole, I feel like that's probably one of our biggest negativities. We waste our time wearing a book or do whatever. And so yeah, I think that's a good point that you brought up. It's a real contributing factor to, again, yes, we're talking music, but everything as being Zimbabwean in general. But I feel like, yeah, little by little, we are getting out of that mindset. We do see the possibilities. We see a lot of players are playing in MLS or in the EPL who are Zimbabwean, you know? And now we're like, that's where you see guys like Scott. Team like how could he push her? How could push her? And I know it's like, okay, we can't all do that. We can't say we're going to whatever, a Formula One team, and Mariacho to do that, for example. But we're not saying the dream should die there. It's very feasible to still do it. Maybe it's a corporate way to do it. Maybe it's not always the, injection of fuel, quick injection of fuel. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a mindset, but I like how you brought that up.
Yeah.
From the heart of Zimbabwe.